At the start of the movie, Enola Holmes is riding her bike and speaking to the viewers. She shares that her mother, Eudora, who loved word games, named her Enola, which is alone spelled backward, after she was born. Enola's father died when she was young, and her older brothers, Mycroft and Sherlock, left after his death. Eudora then raised Enola on her own in their country home. Enola received an education in literature, science, and sports, and was encouraged to live freely and playfully, which was different from the strict and traditional Victorian England schooling. However, Enola once accidentally stumbled upon a secret meeting between her mother and other women, which she didn't fully understand at the time. On Enola's 16th birthday, she wakes up to find her mother gone, leaving behind only a gift box with a booklet on flowers, cards, and pencils. A week later, Enola is on her way to the train station to meet her wealthy and government-working brother, Mycroft, and her famous detective brother, Sherlock, who haven't seen her in years and don't recognize her at first. Mycroft is shocked that Enola is in public without a hat or gloves and is dirty from falling off her bike. He becomes even more irritated when he realizes that Enola hasn't arranged for the carriage he's been paying for, which confuses Enola because they don't own a carriage. To solve the problem, Sherlock hires one to take them to Ferndale. Upon their arrival, Mycroft is displeased with the state of the house. He tells Sherlock that he has been sending a lot of money to Eudora, who sent him letters detailing the costs of the household. Mycroft and Sherlock discuss what to do with Enola, now that their mother is gone. Mycroft believes that Eudora has cheated him and left him with Enola. He thinks Enola should be sent to a strict boarding school to become a proper lady, since she's his responsibility now, while Sherlock suggests she should be allowed to stay at Ferndale, since Eudora taught her almost everything herself, and she appears to be quite intelligent. However, Mycroft insists on sending her away and summons Miss Harrison from Miss Harrison's finishing school for young ladies. Enola's rebellious spirit and defiant attitude get her in trouble, and she is slapped by the headmistress. Enola pleads not to be sent away, but Mycroft is firm, and Sherlock refuses to help. At the start of the evening, Sherlock discovers Enola sketching and reminisces about some memories he has of her, including one about a pine cone wrapped in wool that she named Dash. Enola criticizes Sherlock for never visiting or communicating with the family, but he views Eudora's disappearance as a fascinating mystery to be solved and advises Enola to search for what's right in front of her. Later that night, Enola discovers a coded message from her mother in the gift box Eudora left behind. After decoding it, she finds a hidden envelope with money that Eudora left for her, along with a message saying, "Our future is up to us." Enola decides to leave home dressed as a boy to search for her mother and hops on a train headed for London. While on the train, she meets Viscount Tewkesbury, who is also running away. They are pursued by a man in a brown bowler hat who is searching for Tewkesbury. Enola leaves the scene but hears Tewkesbury scream and rushes back to find the man about to throw Tewkesbury off the train. Enola fights the man, named Linthorn, and saves Tewkesbury by jumping off the train just before a bridge, leaving Linthorn stranded. Sherlock and Mycroft are upset to learn that Enola has run away. Mrs. Lane asks Sherlock not to abandon Enola again, telling him that she lacks practical knowledge of the world outside. Enola and Tewkesbury continue their journey towards London, using his knowledge of plants and fungi to forage for food. Enola cuts Tewkesbury's hair to help him avoid being recognized, and he reveals that he doesn't want to join the army or take his seat in the House of Lords. Enola tells him about her decision to run away instead of going to Miss Harrison's. Tewkesbury suggests they stick together in London, but Enola declines and they go their separate ways upon reaching the city. Enola uses the money her mother left for her to disguise herself as a lady and find a boarding house to stay in. Sherlock and Mycroft return to London, with Mycroft insisting that their name not be associated with Enola's disappearance. He also complains about the deadlock in the House of Lords over voter rights reform. Enola leaves a coded message in several newspapers for her mother, noticing that Tewkesbury's disappearance is getting a lot of media attention. Enola goes to see Ethel, her mother's correspondent, who runs a tea shop that also offers jiu-jitsu classes for women. Ethel reveals that Eudora does not want to be found and is busy with secret work in London. Enola remembers Ethel as one of the women at her mother's secret meeting. Later, Enola discovers coded words in Ethel's conversation and decodes them as locations. She decides to investigate and heads to the docks, where she finds a warehouse with a purple ribbon, the same one that was on her birthday gift from her mother. Inside, she discovers large quantities of fireworks, gunpowder, and other explosives, as well as posters for suffragette rallies. She realizes that her mother is involved in dangerous activities and questions whether she should continue her search for her. Suddenly, Linthorn ambushes her and tries to drown her in a water trough, while interrogating her about Tewkesbury's whereabouts. Enola manages to outsmart him and escape, using the combat skills her mother taught her. Enola engages in a fierce fight with Linthorn, but he proves to be stronger and more skilled. He throws her through the warehouse door and tries to kill her with a knife, but her corset protects her. Enola detonates the gunpowder in the warehouse to escape and manages to get away from Linthorn. Afterward, Enola recalls a time when she nearly died, trying to save a sheep, and how her mother advised her not to risk her life to help others. Despite this, Enola feels compelled to help Tewkesbury and decides to find and assist him. Enola disguises herself once again, this time as a widow named May Beatrice Posey. Her goal is to meet Lady Tewkesbury. Enola introduces herself as a lady detective who works for Sherlock Holmes as an advance investigator. However, Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard enters the scene and refutes her claim, stating that Sherlock always works alone. Tewkesbury's uncle, Sir Wimbrel, sends them both away, rejecting their help. Enola and Lestrade then quiz each other on their knowledge of Sherlock, but Lestrade leaves still confused about May. Enola buys a gardener's uniform and discovers from him that Tewkesbury spent most of his time in the woods. In the forest, Enola discovers the tree branch that almost killed Tewkesbury and notices saw marks on its base. Enola continues her investigation and discovers that Tewkesbury had created a fake plan to throw his pursuers off track by indicating fake locations on a map of London. She finds flower pressings in a travel book and comes up with a theory of where Tewkesbury might be hiding. While investigating Tewkesbury's hidden treehouse, she is surprised by his grandmother, the Dowager, who shares details about Tewkesbury's father being a new thinker and how Tewkesbury is likely the same. The Dowager asks Mays to send her love to her grandson if she sees him before she does, and lets her go without any trouble for snooping. Sherlock uses clues to find Edith's tea shop, where he negotiates for her time by mentioning the banned books she lets customers read. He asks about Eudoria's whereabouts, saying she needs to take care of Enola. Edith tells him Eudoria is doing important work, and that Enola seems to be taking care of herself. She also mentions the useless boy Enola encountered, and that she too is looking for Eudoria. Later, Enola finds Tewkesbury at Covent Garden Market and takes him back to her lodgings. There, she explains her mother's departure and shows him a pile of newspapers as she waits for a response to a message she sent. Enola reveals that despite Tewkesbury's family being wealthy enough to hire a detective to find him, someone in his family sent a murderer after him instead. Enola believes that Tewkesbury's father was actually murdered and that his life is still in danger. Lestrade ambushes them, but Enola fights back and they make it to her room. Enola urges Tewkesbury to escape out the window, as they won't both be able to get away in time, and his life is at risk if he's caught. Though Tewkesbury objects, Enola insists and holds off Lestrade while he flees. Unfortunately, Enola is caught by Lestrade and turned over to Mycroft, who takes her to a finishing school and confiscates the money her mother gave her. Eventually, she is informed that her brother Sherlock has come to visit her, and she is glad to see him. She checks his newspaper for a coded message and expresses her frustration with her situation. Sherlock advises her to take her lessons seriously, as they could be useful in future investigations. Enola asks about Eudoria, and Sherlock reveals that he has been following her trail, which led him to the docks, where Enola had her run-in with Linthorn, and they discuss the bombs found there. Enola accuses Sherlock of betraying her by helping Mycroft capture her and seeing her only as a case, but Sherlock insists that he came because he cares about her. He inquires about the Tewkesbury case, having deduced that Enola was with the boy on the train, and he is impressed with her detective work. Sherlock offers her advice and gives her Dash, the pinecone dog, which he found among Eudoria's belongings, telling Enola that both he and Eudoria consider her to be remarkable. Enola checks the newspaper and sees that the Reform Bill is still stuck in the House of Lords, and that the Marquess is still missing. Suddenly, Tewkesbury arrives, disguised as a basket supposedly sent by Mycroft. Enola is delighted to see him and relieved that he is safe. They plan to use the basket to escape, but Enola changes the plan to avoid Miss Harrison's watchful eye. Tewkesbury delivers the basket to Miss Harrison, pretending it's from Mycroft, and Enola escapes while Miss Harrison dismisses Tewkesbury. They steal Enola's motorcar, and she tells Tewkesbury that his uncle is targeting him to prevent him from voting yes on the Reform Bill, and that he has the most to gain by killing his father and him. Enola decides to go to Basilweather to confront Sir Wimbrel with Tewkesbury. When they arrive, they find the house deserted and are trapped inside by Linthorn, who aims his shotgun at them. Enola and Tewkesbury hide in the shadows and avoid being shot. Enola jumps Linthorn but is knocked unconscious. Before Linthorn can kill her, Tewkesbury fights back and knocks the gun away, but he is also overpowered by Linthorn, who begins to strangle him as Enola struggles to regain consciousness. Enola wrestles with Linthorn, causing him to hit his head on a sharp object and die. The Dowager enters the room, and Tewkesbury is devastated to learn that his grandmother hired Linthorn to kill him and his father. The Dowager picks up the shotgun and confesses that she had to prevent Tewkesbury from voting on the reform bill. She shots Tewkesbury in the chest, seemingly killing him, but Enola disarms her. Enola mourns Tewkesbury's death, but he miraculously wakes up, revealing that he had a steel chest plate under his jacket, which protected him from the shot. Tewkesbury stands up and confronts the Dowager, telling her that her reign is over. After arriving at Scotland Yard, Sherlock instructs Lestrade to arrest the Dowager, revealing that she was responsible for the Marquis's father's murder and was also attempting to kill the Marquis himself. Sherlock explains that the Dowager wanted to prevent the Marquis from voting in favor of the reform bill, and other such reforms as his father and grandfather would have done. Lestrade admits that Enola had actually solved the case first, impressing Sherlock. Tewkesbury reunites with his mother and uncle, and takes his seat in the House of Lords to vote on the reform bill. Enola says goodbye to him at the gate, promising to meet again. Enola later discovers a coded message in the paper asking her to meet someone, and she suspects that Sherlock sent it, not Euphoria. She disguises herself and goes to the meeting spot, where she finds Sherlock and Mycroft waiting for her. Mycroft agrees to let Sherlock take Enola in as his ward, annoyed that the reform bill has passed with Tewkesbury's vote. After Sherlock and Mycroft leave, Enola observes them from a distance before heading back to her boarding house, where her mother, Euphoria, is waiting for her. Euphoria admits that she had intended to reveal her location to Enola, but the situation is too dangerous, and she cannot stay for long. She congratulates Enola on saving the Marquis, and they briefly embrace before Euphoria leaves, encouraging Enola to contact her if she needs any help. Enola decides to continue on her path as a detective, asserting that it is time for her to find her own place in the world and shape her own future. Thanks for watching this recap of Enola Holmes. We hope this video provided a helpful refresher or an enjoyable summary of the movie. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.